When I was in grade 9, we got a new music teacher. His name was Mr. Evans. He was young, about 25 years old, with messy brown hair and bright green eyes. He looked a little different from the other teachers, and he had a kind smile. On his first day, he brought a violin to class. He started playing, and the music was so beautiful that everyone in the room went silent. I couldn't stop thinking about it. For the rest of the day, the sound of the violin stayed in my mind. Mr. Evans loved music, and he wanted us to love it too. He said, "Music is more than just notes. It's a way to speak to your heart." The way he talked made me feel like music was magic. Like many girls in my class, I had a little crush on Mr. Evans. But I didn't talk about it with my friends. Instead, I decided to work harder in music class. I wanted him to notice me. I started practicing the violin every day after school. At first, I wasn't very good, but I kept trying. One day, during class, Mr. Evans stopped at my desk. "Lila," he said with a kind smile, "you've gotten much better. Have you been practicing at home?" I felt my face turn red. "Yes, sir," I said quietly. "Well, it shows. Keep going, you're doing great." His words made me so happy that I couldn't stop smiling for the rest of the day. After that, I often stayed after class to ask him questions about music. He would help me with my violin, showing me the best way to play. His hands would gently guide mine, and my heart would beat so fast. Then, our school announced a talent show. I signed up, even though I was scared. I wanted to play a special song on my violin to impress Mr. Evans. On the night of the show, I saw him sitting in the front row. He smiled at me, and I felt a little braver. When I played my song, my hands were shaking at first, but I remembered his advice: music is a way to speak to the heart. I closed my eyes and let the music flow. When I finished, the crowd clapped loudly. But the only person I looked at was Mr. Evans. He was clapping too, and he looked proud. After the show, he found me backstage. "Lila, that was amazing," he said. "You have real talent." I should have been happy, but something about his voice made me feel sad. He sounded proud, but also distant, like he was reminding himself I was just his student. A few months later, Mr. Evans told us he was leaving. He had a new job at a music school in another city. When he announced it, I felt like my heart had broken. On his last day, I stayed after class to say goodbye. "Thank you for teaching me," I said. "You made me love music." He smiled and said, "You're going to do great things, Lila. Don't stop playing." I wanted to say more, to tell him how much he meant to me, but I couldn't find the words. Years passed. I kept playing the violin and went to a music school. Life became busy with classes, friends, and concerts. Sometimes, I still thought about Mr. Evans and how he inspired me. One day, I saw his name online. He was performing in a concert in my city. Without thinking, I bought a ticket. At the concert, I saw him on stage, playing the violin. He looked a little older, with some gray hair, but his music was just as beautiful as I remembered. After the show, I waited to see him. When he walked into the lobby, I called out, "Mr. Evans?" He turned and looked surprised. "Lila? Wow, it's been so long." We sat and talked for hours. He told me about his life, and I told him about mine. He was still kind and warm, but as we talked, I realized something: he wasn't the same person I had admired as a teenager. He was just a man. When we said goodbye, he hugged me and said, "I'm so proud of you, Lila. You've become everything I hoped you'd be." Walking home that night, I felt both happy and sad. Mr. Evans had been such an important part of my life, but I knew now that he was only a chapter, not the whole story. I still think about him sometimes, especially when I play the violin. But it doesn't make me sad anymore. Instead, it reminds me of how far I've come, and how every chapter in life helps us grow.